Robin Peterson.
Caden Keplinger.
Nancy Caltabiano.
Richard Peterson.
Pam Peterson.
All right, can you imagine living a life without plastic? Believe it or not, plastic has transformed our lives from travel and medicine to our everyday uses at home. According to the Center of Biological Diversity, the average American family takes home about 1,500 plastic shopping bags each year. Just to put a small margin of our plastic use into perspective, today, with many hours of research and a love for the environment and nature, I hope to help you gain knowledge on plastic and its effects on the environment. Okay, so let's say you're walking down the aisles at your local supermarket or grocery store. What you'll tend to notice is objects like beef or chicken that is wrapped in kind of like a clear film, and usually it's packaged in like a container. And then other things you'll notice are like packaging like this for face wash, shampoo, and then plastic cones too. You'll notice that all of these things are obviously wrapped in plastic or held in plastic containers or plastic film. Next time you're at the store, try to notice like how many things you're seeing that are wrapped in plastic, packaged in plastic, and you'll tend to notice how much plastic we actually use. So I'd like to start by giving you guys some background on packaging or plastic. So the first fully synthesized plastic was invented in 1885 by a man named Alexander Parks. The result of his product could be easily molded when hot and then retained its shape when it was cooled down. He called his invention Parkisine. He then went to open up his own Parkisine company, but that later failed because the product that he was trying to produce was too expensive for the production to be like on a large scale. The material was also flammable and it was prone to breaking. So this is actually kind of a cool story. So years later, a New York billiard company was offering a grand total prize of $10,000 to anybody who could come up with a new material for the billiard balls that would be the same consistency as ivory. Ivory is found in the tusks of elephants, so this was a resource that was becoming kind of scarce and expensive as the elephants were also becoming scarce. So the creation of plastics was actually to help wildlife. John Wesley Hyatt was the man who came up with the material. It was a synthetic polymer. In hopes to receive the cash prize, he called it celluloid. Because the material was too soft for billiard balls, though, he didn't actually get the money. But they did find out that later it was able to be used for several other objects like combs and then photogenic film. So some of the things that plastic has been used for over the years was helping our allies in World War II. Much of that was accredited to the invention of plastics. They used things like helmets, guns, parachutes, motor fuses, and then lighter aircrafts as well. And then after World War II, the plastic companies needed a new market. So the American people were ready to spend their money again, and plastic was taking the world by storm. Some things after World War II that plastic was most commonly seen used for was steel in cars. This made cars a lot lighter using plastic. Wooden furniture. A lot of times the furniture companies would like to use plastic just because it's cheaper. And then like glass packaging too. In stores you'll notice that some things are packaged in plastic, like water bottles and soda. This makes them like less breakable rather than using glass. Another thing was cloth diapers. So they, instead of using like cloth diapers and having to wash those, they would use like plastic, almost like diapers, and those were able to be flushed at one point. And then saran wrap. Saran wrap is another really big one. You'll notice that it's kind of just like a clear film. This holds like many of our household food that we store away. And let's see. And then here is the short video I just wanted to show really quick. This is actually the first commercial for Saran Wrap in the year 1953. Just a short. Whoops. Hold on. Okay.
Saran Wrap. That's right. There's nothing like Saran Wrap. It's the crystal clear plastic that lets you see everything you wrap. Now look at this. Saran Wrap clings like magic. Just press it into place over any bowl or dish and...
Okay, so as you can see, Saran Wrap was just coming out in the year 1953. And so plastic was becoming a more popular item at that time. So, then over the years, plastic was obviously thought to be a marvelous invention to help the environment and our own personal uses. But now we will look at the way that plastic eventually became a burden on the environment and our everyday lives. So from plastic water bottles to plastic Band-Aids, Americans were quickly developed a single-use culture. In the 1960s, plastic debris was first observed within our surrounding oceans. Americans quickly became aware of our environmental problems. There was first the oil spill of 1969 off the coast of California. That was the one that kind of caught most people's eye. And then also there was one at the Cuyahoga River in Ohio, and this river was so polluted that it actually caught fire. And then in the 1970s and 80s, the plastic's reputation fell further as anxiety about waste increased for Americans. While there were so many plastic products are disposable, plastic lasts forever in the environment. It was actually the plastics industry's idea to offer recycling to Americans. Although recycling is far from perfect, as much of our plastic waste still ends up in landfills. And then the first targeted activist looked at was plastic grocery bags, like banning that. So many states have actually banned plastic grocery bags, and they now recommend bringing your own, just to kind of use that to take home your groceries rather than using all the plastic bags. So now I will tell you a little bit about how plastic affects the land, rather than what we more commonly know plastic to affect is the ocean. So single-use plastics not only affect marine life, obviously, but they affect life for humans and animals on land. Human, plants, and animals, basically the consumption of plastics kind of becomes a tangled mess for animals. So there was actually a viral video of a raccoon who got a peanut butter jar stuck on his head. And while it may have been funny to us to laugh at or see, for the raccoon, this kind of, he couldn't fight off predators, and he was also probably scared at this point. And then as well as birds trying to fly, when they get plastic stuck on their foots, they're not able to, fly the right way. So the UN environment suggests that 1/3 of our plastic waste ends up in our soil or our fresh water. These plastic disintegrates into particles known as microplastics, and microplastics actually end up in our food chain. There are high levels of toxic chemicals that go into making plastics, are what our grocery stores and drinks are packaged in. So the egg cartons, milk cartons, all that good stuff